Date. My stepfather made my mom disown me at 18. 3 years later, she begged me to pay for his cancer treatment and my stepsister's tuition. I refused. Final part. This case is dismissed. Mrs. Henderson, the court finds that your son has no legal obligation to provide financial support to you, your husband, or your daughter under the filial responsibility statutes of this state. The gavel came down with a sound of finality that echoed in my chest. As we stood to leave, my mother rushed toward me, tears streaming down her face. How could you do this to us? After everything we did for you? Sandra moved to intervene, but I shook my head slightly. I needed to say this. You did nothing for me, I said quietly, calmly. You chose him over me. You threw me away when I needed you most. And now you want to pretend none of that happened because you need something from me? That's not how it works. He's dying, she hissed, gesturing to Robert, who sat slumped in his chair, too weak to join the confrontation. Have you no heart? I looked at the man who had systematically worked to push me out of my mother's life, who had treated me as a burden, an inconvenience, an obstacle to his perfect family. I felt no joy at his suffering, but no sorrow either. I'm sorry he's sick, I said honestly. But that doesn't erase what he did. What you did. Chloe stepped forward then, her face contorted with anger. You selfish asshole. You could help. But you won't. How do you live with yourself? I met her gaze steadily. The same way you lived with yourself when you watched your father push me out of my own home. The same way you lived with yourself when you enjoyed all the benefits of being the favorite while I was treated like garbage. We make our choices, Chloe. All of us. And we live with the consequences. I turned to leave, but my mother grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in with desperate strength. Please, she whispered. If not for him, then for me. I'm still your mother. For a moment, looking into her familiar eyes, I wavered. This was the woman who had once been my everything, who had worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over my head, who had taught me to read and tie my shoes and ride a bike. But then I remembered her silence as Robert told me to leave, the years of emptiness that followed, the fact that she had sued me rather than accept my answer. No, I said, gently removing her hand from my arm. You gave up that right. Good luck with everything, but don't contact me again. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years. Not happy, exactly, but free. Free from the last lingering sense of obligation, the last thread of misplaced guilt. Update 2. I received a letter today, forwarded by Sandra. My mother has persistent, if nothing else. The letter was handwritten, the paper tear-stained in places. Robert passed away last week. The funeral is on Saturday. I know you probably won't come, but I wanted you to know. Chloe had to drop out of college. We lost the house. I'm working at a department store now, trying to pay off the medical bills. I don't expect your help anymore, but I thought you should know what happened to your family. I was wrong. So wrong. I see that now, too late. If you ever find it in your heart to forgive me, my door is always open. What's left of it, anyway? Love, Mom. I read the letter 3 times, searching for my feelings. Grief for a man I had once almost considered a father? Relief that he was gone? Satisfaction that karma had finally come for them all? I found none of these. Just a dull ache for what might have been, for the family we could have been if Robert had been a different man, if my mother had been stronger, if I had somehow been enough. I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't respond to the letter. But I did something that surprised even me. I arranged for a modest flower arrangement to be sent. No note, no